Today, I'm going to speak about how to get enlightened, the path, the way, the techniques. I think almost the whole time I was looking for enlightenment, I was always felt as if I were a beginner trying to achieve a prize. So for years, I wandered around to many different Zen masters. And other teachers, including Muktananda. I always felt lost. I'd practice the practice. I'd have experiences, but nothing seemed final. I read a lot. I read about the ancient Zen masters and monks through the ages. I read Ramana, read a lot of things. But overall, during that whole thing, I didn't know what I was doing. I was blindly reading books with concepts, blindly following directions on how to meditate or do self-inquiry. Nothing really happened except kind of magical things. Like seeing energies, feeling energies.
آره تقریبا
I can't stop it.
نه نه الان کار دارم میشه
There we go. I was lost. Then in 1989, I met Robert. Immediately, I focused on him because he was speaking a language that I felt I understood, talking about Advaita. And after that point, I stopped trying to do anything and just spent time with him. Twice a week, I'd listen to his talks about no self, about everything is an illusion. The body is an optical illusion. Once in a while, I do self-inquiry, which consisted of following the I thought. Now, this is something not easy to do. but you get into a passive but alert state and watch your mind. Watch the thoughts pass. And at first, you won't be able to remain separate from the thoughts long. Now what? Oh. You won't be able to remain separate from the thoughts long. A thought will grab you and you'll start pursuing it. How do I mute? Oh, shit. There. You'll be silent. You'll be sitting in your easy chair. And you'll watch the thoughts. Just like you watch the rest of your inner experience. The emptiness of it. The feeling of your diaphragm moving. Feeling of your lungs expanding and contracting. The passage of air through your nose down into your lungs. You'll notice the pressure of your rear end on the chair or bed. Your legs on the chair or the bed or the floor. And you start getting acquainted with the sensations of your body and your mind. But it's hard to remain still. You frame the question, though, not in terms of being still, but how do I quiet the mind? It's not really a matter of quieting the mind or even of concentrating. Number one, you recognize that the thoughts the mind are engaged in are repetitious. You usually think about the same things over and over again. Whatever is important to you that week or that month. And the thoughts actually help you not at all. You think about your girlfriend or your boyfriend, what they've done to harm you, what you've done to harm them, how to get them to love you more, whatever, how to get your car fixed, whatever. And what you do is recognize that the thoughts that come up are repetitious. And if you follow them, they go nowhere. Nothing is ever accomplished. You see that the thoughts are really rather stupid. The thoughts help you not in any way. They don't help you understand the spirit world or your everyday, ordinary life. They're just a kind of random chatter about everything. You may think about book lists of books to read. You may think about Robert from moment to moment, or Ramana, or Nisargadatta. But such thinking doesn't help you at all. You see that thoughts are just kind of low-level entertainment. They're entertaining you, holding your attention, giving you something to do. when you're not following some program or another. They're essentially a waste of time. And once you realize that they have no value to you and lead nowhere, you can begin to stop entertaining yourself by watching your mind and playing its game. The thoughts are almost always there. You can allow them to engulf you and go down that rabbit hole of wherever the thought stream leads you. Do it once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, 100 times. And it always enters in dissolution, where the thought chain changes its mind and starts generating a different thought chain. Once you realize thoughts have no value, they're not even good entertainment, you can begin to ignore them. But by this time of watching the mind, you're able to see thoughts almost as objects. Objects which, if they get too close to you, attach themselves and you become inside of the thought. You're no longer watching the thoughts, but you are the thought looking outward into the world of continued trains of thoughts. So you stay away from that trains, multiple trains of thoughts, by seeing they have no value. They're just irritating entertainment that never goes anywhere, that constantly occupies your mind. And by occupying your mind, the thought processes don't let you go deeper into yourself. Here's the crux. Whenever you practice lightly. Don't get into force. You practice with objects that don't really exist, so don't take them seriously. If you get captured by a thought, so be it. Just let go of the next thought train. It's a process of deliberative relaxation, releasing yourself from the thought, just watching thoughts. After a while, the center of focus of your attention your center falls into your chest or your gut and begins a new life there, with the mind being 2 feet away. And you're no longer living right next to that antenna of thinking in the brain. And you start seeing reality without thoughts. And you see all those thoughts that capture your mind a pure illusion. You've lived in illusion your entire life. The illusion of being a person, of having a body, of possessing consciousness, of being such and such an age and sex, of being married or not married, being spiritual or not spiritual, having emotions getting out of control, having different impulses and ideas. And you begin dropping them now because you've learned how to distance yourself from all of those objects of consciousness, all the thoughts, all the emotions, all the tactile feelings inside, the feeling of your back or butt against the chair, the feeling of your breathing. As a matter of fact, if you can just focus on your breathing enough, it stops the flow of thoughts. This is the kind of state you want to get to be in, where everything is empty inside, and there's a stream of thoughts, but you rest in that emptiness, only infrequently captured by the thoughts. And you get to know the qualitative feeling and vision of being in emptiness. And you get there by relaxation, relaxing the mind, letting go, relaxing the muscles of your body, relaxing your neck, your chest, your shoulders, your upper back. There's one danger, though, if you relax this way while lying down, you'll tend to fall asleep. And that kind of defeats the purpose of being awake with an empty mind. The empty mind allows you just to see and feel what is without labeling it as breath or passage of air in the nose, or the expansion and contraction of your lungs, the rising and lowering of the diaphragm, the muscle expansion and contraction in your chest and back, the feeling of clothes or chair or floor upon your body. You just become quiet and explore the sensations. For now you're out of the mind and into the body and the world. The world as you hear it. But don't look at this point, because as soon as you look, you'll start labeling. Maybe not consciously, but unconsciously. That's a chair, that's a bed, that's my wife, that's my husband. Or that's an I am hungry sensation, so I need to eat something. I know many people are captured to this ritual in the morning of eating certain kinds of food or drinking coffee or tea. Their day doesn't allow, or they don't allow their day to begin until this ritual period is through. And you do it every morning, especially once you're retired. You don't have to worry about rushing to work. Step 2. Come to satsang. Listen to musica. Forget about what you think about him, but listen to what he says about the world and your perceptions of the world. If he says relax, try to relax. If he says pay no attention to the mind, try to pay no attention to the mind, which is hard because it's like stop thinking about an elephant. Once that idea is grabbed by you, it's almost impossible to stop thinking about an elephant. So have no rules outside of don't allow yourself to get trapped by a thought for more than an instant. See that that thought is intrinsically useless. It gets you nowhere except to rob your attention and to blind you and keep you in the mundane world. Thoughts are always about the mundane world and what's in the mundane world. Number 2 is read Nisargadatta, the 3 books by Robert Powell, edited by him. And maybe one of the 3 books edited by Gene Dunn. They're very different in tone. I like the clarity of the Robert Powell books. He translated everything into English with very proper pronunciation and clear language because he was an editor, an academic editor of academic papers at UC San Diego. It's the best written of all the Nisargadatta books. Those 3 are. And then, of course, those of Gene Dunn are words of Nisargadatta as used by and interpreted by a student of his who he authorized to be a teacher. Now you're used to emptiness. You're used to ignoring the mind. And yet you have these concepts in you that you have no individuality. Your body and mind are spontaneous happenings within you. You observe them, but you are not them. This is a further distancing of yourself with your mind and with your body. One day it will become clear whether it's a great awakening experience, like it happened to me and to Robert and to Ramana, Nisargadatta. That none of this is real. What there is a flowing of consciousness.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
which we add meaning to. It's like a thought grabs our attention, much like a voice in the morning that calls your name, and you come out of nothingness and you find consciousness arising in you. This becomes your new meditation. When you wake up in the morning, watch the process of waking up. Watch the stages you go through. The first stage is like a flickering of consciousness. You become aware of an energy growing inside of you that's taking you towards awakening. You have no words for it, but you recognize it as coming awake. Then something happens almost instantaneously. That rising energy in you, and this you don't know yet, but there's a rising energy from your gut and chest that goes upwards into your brain. Somewhere in that process, you come awake. But in that awakening, there's no world and there's no you yet. There's just an awakening of the senses. There's no thoughts. And at this stage, there's really no world because you don't recognize external and internal. It's all just one. There are no words in this gap yet. There's just silence. This is what Robert calls the gap. This is what others call Turiya. It's sensation without recognition. It's sensation without understanding. No thoughts. It's existence without existence in the mind. It's existence before you're aware of existence. And then at a certain point, you wake up and you know who you are and where you are, and that you're alive. This is a coming of waking consciousness. It happens every morning, disappears every night into nothingness. This consciousness of yours is not a permanent state. It comes and it goes. Same with sleep consciousness. Sleep comes and it goes through that process, that 4-step process of becoming awake in the morning and then of going asleep and losing awareness of the world and consciousness of the world. So how can we possibly think of waking consciousness as being permanent? Because in our daily lives, it's not permanent. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And yet we hope that there's a day where it continues to come and go forever. When we think about death, and we're really thinking about the death of the body and the death of the sequence of coming and going of waking consciousness. There's no coming of consciousness if there's no body. If the body's is dead, deteriorating, waking consciousness doesn't come anymore. There's only nothingness. Only nothingness is permanent. And nothingness is where consciousness arises from and disappears into sleep at night. Nothingness is, but nothingness cannot be seen into, nor described, nor understood. We just recognize we spring out of it and we fall back into it every night. The whole existence of the body and the sequence of coming and going, consciousness, waking consciousness in the body is the birth and disappearance of the mundane world thousands of times in our life. Trying to get this one to stay. The only thing that's permanent is that who witnesses the coming and going of consciousness. Because really, if we can watch ourselves becoming conscious, we can watch the stages of passing from nothingness into waking consciousness. That witness, let's say it's not an object, but the witnessing happens prior to consciousness. And by prior, I don't mean in time or space, but ontologically. In consciousness is everything in our world, our mundane world. And our mundane world, our existence as a human being, does not happen until consciousness is there. And we can watch that waking consciousness appearing in us and arising in us. And then one day you can have an experience of the arising in consciousness in you in a very fundamental way, like the explosion of consciousness that happened to me. And I think it's because of my love for someone else, or for Robert, with no qualifying experiences to say it happened because of this, but spontaneously. He felt the explosion of consciousness within him ever expanding until it contained the whole universe. And that's all he said about that experience. He didn't go further and describe it. He didn't explain it or say how it was enlightenment. But the essence of it is you become conscious of the awakening process in the body. And that awakening process is dictated by the life force. That spark in you that tells you you're alive. That spark in you that tells you you were alive. When that spark finally hits the brain, it's a fourfold process of waking up in the different experiences from nothingness to the full range experience of consciousness, or the consciousness that you consider to be you. It's the feeling of existence, feeling I am. I have come alive. In that same moment, recognizing that while you come alive, also God comes alive in you, which is the life force. And from that point on, you're always aware of the life force in you. And your life force unfolds in you, your spiritual nature. You're not the body. You're not your mind. That concept leaves you. And you know that you're consciousness only. You're disembodied consciousness that can't exist without a body. And yet you're not the body. You're aware that you're not the body. You're aware that you're consciousness. And not any part of consciousness, but the totality of consciousness. Every part of the waking mind is you, is your material world, your mundane world. And so you begin to explore your experiences as consciousness rather than as your body or your mind. You recognize you're not the body, you're consciousness. And everything in you and around you is an object or event within your consciousness. So from that point of view, the universe is just an appearance in consciousness, just like a dream. It has no reality. It's just an appearance in consciousness. And it's easy for you not to believe in it anymore either. What it presents to you is just an appearance. There's no deep reality. All this becomes clear to you. The true nature is nothingness. Nothingness which observes consciousness. But consciousness depends on the body, even though it is not the body. So you begin to see, you begin to see, understand. You're not your body. And after a while, you realize you're not even consciousness. Because consciousness is just an appearance. It has no reality separate from its own level of existence. So you realize the real nature of your existence is nothingness. Existence comes and goes, both in your body and your life, but in the body and the life of the universe. Only the quality of awareness residing in nothingness is permanent. Now, Nisargadatta says, all that you have to do is hear this concept. And believe it with conviction. That then comes to you as an awakening experience. Where with no doubt you know that you're not the body, but you know your consciousness. And after a while, another step happens when you realize you're not even consciousness. Consciousness is just an appearance, a state, a happening within you as nothingness. But you don't hang on to it because nothingness hangs on to nothing. It's not born. It doesn't descend into consciousness. Consciousness comes to it automatically, without being bidden. You didn't ask for consciousness, it's thrust upon you. So why not be rid of it? Just causes you a lot of problems, a lot of pain. And this nothingness, there is no pain, there is no happenings. And this requires a further relaxation. A relaxation of all those ancient habits in you, those ancient desires in you to exist, to do, to own. Any questions? Any comments? Any no thoughts?
It is such a powerful knowledge that you have shared. One thing that I have is witness also witnessing the spark.
It's what?
Is witnessing consciousness and also witnessing the spark, which is the life force.
What about them?
Are you witnessing both?
Yes. And when you first feel the life force, as the life force, you'll recognize it, that at least for that time, that that's your true existence and identity. And you realize at the same time that it's God manifesting through you. You're being lived by the life force. And it's such a divine experience to know yourself as spirit, as consciousness, but also as the life force, and consciousness is witnessing the life force. And this is such a dramatic state. It's so powerful that you just want to drop to your knees and worship the life force. And this is where the idea of surrender to the Guru. You're surrendering to that life force inside of you. Letting go of your separate existence. Realizing yourself as the life force. Living through you. And if you can do that, you see in a sense that everything is preordained, like Robert talked about, because it's not your effort. It's the life force effort in you that are determining what you do. You have no place in this except as a witness. And the witness has no choice. The life force is making the choices for you. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Who's that?
David Kennedy.
Yes.
Thank you, first of all. This feels like the ultimate teaching. So Vedanta has this teaching that only that which doesn't change is real. Is that also what I'm new here, so is that also what you teach as well?
No, because I really don't know what that means. That's not in my experience. That there is something within me that's unchanging. I feel the life force within me, and I fall down and worship that life force. But everywhere I look within consciousness, there's change. Now you can say that nothingness is outside of consciousness, which is true. But to say that it's unchanging is not within your experience or my experience. I don't experience an unchanging center or source. If anything, it's a concept that the noumenal or nothingness is the same. And I believe it's not the same. I think, I feel, my experience, my intuition is that nothingness is not a flat field that's undifferentiated and unchanging. But there's a whole bunch of things that are happening within nothingness, which gets projected into the world as somethingness through the life force and through consciousness. I don't hold on to that concept, what you just suggested. To me, I've never experienced it. And it isn't within my experience what the ultimates are. It's like an intuition. You might say a wish list of things you hope are, because you seem to have the intuition that this is the way you intuit, but it may not be that way either. Let's just say you hold on to the idea of nothingness as the absolute, or at least a quality of nothingness is the absolute, which is the ability and power to witness and to witness thinking, to witness your body changing in life and growing up and then dying. So it becomes your concept that I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I'm that which comes before both. And I can call it the witness, I can call it nothingness. I don't call it emptiness because emptiness is an experience within consciousness. So nothingness comes before emptiness. Nothingness is no experience. Emptiness is a definite experience of nothing within the field of consciousness that has any substance. Everything is like a bubble, an appearance in the field of consciousness, and has no reality of its own. Consciousness has no reality. It's just an appearance. Now, within this appearance, I can talk about things which I cannot experience, but are there theoretically, like electrons, photons, atoms, etc., which cannot be seen, but are theorized. And then one day we invent a process which says, it shows us what atoms are like and what electrons are like going around the atoms as a cloud. But to me, this is all bullshit. Physics makes up an imaginary world of quantum physics and relativity physics that seem to be confirmed by experiments, but it's like experiments in a mathematical system will always prove the mathematical system as long as it's part of the mathematical system. And physics is part of the play of consciousness. So naturally, it will consider the illusion to be part of itself, and as itself, it's the only thing it knows, it must be real, even though that's illusory. Does that make sense? You all are very lucky. Part of the luck is by being with me, you're tying yourself into two lineages. The lineage of Robert Adams, which has the attached lineage of Ramana Maharshi, and the lineage of Nisargadatta, and the Nath lineage of mountain yogis. And this is a very powerful double blessing, you might say. And like me, all that you have to do is come to satsang and listen to my bullshit. You don't have to believe my bullshit. I know I didn't believe Robert's bullshit, but it made me think. How can Robert say that nothing exists? It's obviously wrong. I can see things all around me. I can kick a chair or hit a wall with my fist and it'll hurt. So it's got to be real because I feel pain. But what if the pain itself is unreal? And so on you go. You're thinking about it all the time. How can this be real? You begin questioning your thoughts and the concepts. And you get to the point where you realize no concept is real because a concept is part of something in you that wants to name things and find patterns. But the patterns it finds are just patterns or appearances. And they have no intrinsic reality. That is, mathematics itself has no intrinsic existence. Comes into existence through logic and theorems, and then the generation of theorems as a result of the initial theorems or themes. And then, as Gödel found, no mathematical system can be both complete and consistent. So even mathematics is not permanent, does not exist before time, and is eternal. Even the concept of eternal is only a concept. Even the concept of consciousness is a concept. So when you understand that even the concept of consciousness or the concept of the witness is still just illusory, you just laugh. Just laugh and see it's all bullshit. Sophisticated bullshit that you managed to escape. And by escaping it, you're not trapped by it. None of it. So consider yourself lucky. You have two lineages you can refer to and to pray to through me and separately. You may have your own favorite teachers you continue to read, and you can consider them part of your lineages too. And each one of you starts a new lineage when you make it. When you make it, you want to teach it. It's kind of part of the whole process is when you free yourself from it, the whole ball of wax, you've walked all the steps, you've done all the worshiping, all the surrendering, all the meditating, all the witnessing. You want to tell others about it because you're in a different dimension now altogether from the ordinary world, and you want everybody to have that experience. Eddie, stop chasing Radha. That's my personal existence, cats. Anybody else?
Yes, Ed. Hi, it's James.
Yes.
Yes, thanks for all that you do. And yes, we are lucky. You had said that, well, is the living essence that lives inside of you that you worship, is that an appearance too?
More or less, yes.
So why do you worship an appearance?
Huh?
Why do you worship an appearance?
Because when you experience it, your experience is of such unbelievable power and unbelievable emotion and unbelievably powerful energy. The natural instinct is just to prostrate yourself in front of that power and worship it. That's your first experience of knowing God within yourself. After a while, you realize that even it too will pass. It's an illusion. But your first brush with God is done while you still believe yourself an individual in a way.
So would you say that like Ramana said, sometimes you remove a thorn with a thorn. So is that more or less like a portal to take you to the next level by worshiping that living force within you?
I guess you could say that, but my experience, which is just worshiping in it. I can't say that the worship in itself created a deepening of the portal. I'd leave it a lot more mysterious than that, rather than explaining because of this, after this, because of this happened, that it was a portal to greater dimensions. Because as it is, was the most amazing and deep experience in my life. And I really hate to consign it to the place of being a helping entity experience to a deeper enlightenment. It's always with me as a power within. The life force within, I always worship, no matter what its status as real or unreal, because I can feel that power and that energy within me all the time as long as I'm alive. But I know that it has no intrinsic value outside of being alive within me and others like you. This is how I recognize the life force, by seeing it in another and loving that other. By loving that other, I felt the love I felt for her inside of me throughout my whole body and my being. And it has left a mark on me forever. As long as I'm alive, I will remember that experience. And I continue to feel the life force operating within me, which still has so much power. And it's almost overwhelming in its intensity, even to this day. So I can talk about nothingness, but as long as I'm awake, I feel this power within me, this godness, this life force. It in itself is enough. I don't have to think about it as being a key to a different dimension or a different kind of existence, because that different kind of existence is in nothingness and it's not to be experienced. But the highest experience in life is finding that God realization or knowledge of the life force within that's being observed by your consciousness, and that they work together.
In consciousness and awareness, you use those as the same, right?
No,
No.
consciousness is that which is observed.
Oh, okay.
Awareness is that which observes consciousness, which is the witness, which is outside of the dimension of consciousness.
Okay, good. Now I understand. Okay, that cleared some stuff up for me.
Okay, now we'll have a test
Okay.
Yeah. week.
I hope it's going to be multiple choice.
No, it's an essay. Okay, guys. I filled you with enough bullshit to keep you going for a month or two. But you only have until next Wednesday to observe it and put it into practice. I love you all. You don't know how much, because I see that same life force in me, in you, and I worship that life force in you. Not the individual that's you that you think you are, but that godness in you, which still is only a thought, a concept, but it seems so real to me. The feeling of God coming alive in me, the life force just fills me with energy, with power, with resolve, with all of that. I can say I've come alive. And I will not go quietly into that still night, however that song goes. I love you all. Keep it up. Read Robert, read Nisargadatta. Come to satsang. And relax a lot in your chair or in your bed. And just observe yourself, not only with your eyes by observing, but feeling. Feel your emotions. Feel the couch or the chair against your flesh. Feel your muscles. Feel your guts operating inside and the bubbling that goes on and the sounds, etc. Your whole life. Feel it. It's more powerful than seeing it because you're grounded in a different kind of existence when you feel it than with your eyes. I love you all. Take care. And I'll see you on Wednesday.
Post
What?
this soon, Edgy, because this one was exquisite. This was so powerful. I love you.
Up to Mark to get it to me. You know?
Okay. Well, I love you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay. And am I going to turn it over? Ooh, can I? Bernadette and Chris. Watch them fight over who's going to be in charge. Bye-bye.
I just want to comment that I'm not recording. I didn't record his session. He recorded it. He thought I was recording it because I used to do that when he, like last session, because he couldn't, because he didn't have use of his computer, but he was recording it today. I hope he's saving it. It's still recording. Can't be.
What does that mean? Does that mean anyone can save it?
No, only the person who records it can save it.
So,
I just think it's like a bug in the software or something, because he's terminated it.
But Mark, I think he should have made someone host before he left. And if you are the host now, let's see.
No, there doesn't
No.
need to be a host.
No, actually, Bata is the host. He can
Oh, okay.
end the recording.
Wake up, Bata. We need you now.
We need you to turn off the recording.
Yeah, if you can.
But does it get recorded on